Welcome to Yoga Within's YouTube channel. My name is Candace and this is Realignment Yoga. So today we're going to need a strap, and the strap, something that you can tie around your legs. So if you've got a strap, you've got a loop in it, that would be perfect. And then a couple of blocks or pillows that we're going to be used for squeezing, and a couple of other things. And then of course a ottoman, a chair, something that you can put your feet up on to start out in the first position. So as always, we're going into a position called static back. You're going to take your block or your chair and you're going to come down into this static back position. So we want to have our hips bent at 90 degrees, our knees bent at 90 degrees, and our feet are in line with our knees. So there's a little bit of space in between our feet. And then the upper body is relaxed onto the floor, arms are out to the side, palms facing up. So we come into this position with every realignment yoga class in order to get centered, settle in, try to let our body straighten a little bit. So really we just want to be here, relaxing into this position. It shouldn't feel like you're holding your legs up at all. They are relaxing onto your block or chair. And then you're just letting everything go. So we're using the floor here to allow our body to come into a straight position. And then we're allowing these hip flexors here to relax. So for most people, this feels like a lovely position to be in. We stay in here at about 5 minutes or so. At home, if you're doing this, you could stay in it here for 10 minutes. And it's quite a nice position. So I thought today that we would focus on backs. So everything sort of to do with backs, and the things that we'll do today might help relieve low back pain. Some of the things might help with sciatica or SI joint issues. And so, you just want to try these things and see if they work for you. And so the theme, I thought, of this class, because finally there is no snow on the ground, that this would be about yard work. And so, most of the time we do yard work, we probably have a little bit of back issues after. So maybe, before you go out and do yard work, you do this, or after you come back in from yard work, it might feel nice to do this. So just laying here, feeling relaxed, letting everything settle. So making sure your eyes are relaxed and your face feel relaxed. And you try not to have tension into your jaw at all. And so it sometimes helps to have our lips, keeping our lips closed, but let the bottom jaw drop a little bit away from the top. So there's a little bit of space in between your feet, in between your teeth. And then let the tongue, if it's up at the top of the mouth, try to let that relax down. Allow your neck to feel like it's long. And making sure that your shoulders aren't tensed up towards your ears. And so shoulders are relaxing down but away from your ears. And then you just want to take a moment to notice whether or not your shoulder blades feel like they're even on the floor. And if they don't feel even, you might not be able to do anything about it, but just try to think about letting your body settle. And now just make sure that there's no tension in the stomach area. And you just want to let that stomach softly rise and fall with your breath. So we often have a tendency to let our breath go more into the upper chest. So try to think of breathing so that your stomach just rises and falls with that breath. Just take a moment to notice now how that low back feels. So if the low back, when you start into this position, if it already goes flat to the floor, then it might feel better to have a small towel or something to roll up to place underneath the arch of the back. And then for some of us, we might have a really big arch. And so for those of us that have a really big arch over these next few minutes, you want to just try to let that arch relax and release and notice how that feels. And then just check out to see where the hips are feeling, sort of the back of the hips. And notice if they feel like they're even on the floor. And again, they might or might not, but you're just trying to allow the body to settle, especially the upper body, to settle into this straight position that is the floor. If you feel that your neck is not comfortable, then you might also want to have a small towel rolled up underneath the neck, or maybe it feels better for you to have your head up on some sort of pillow. So now just make sure that your legs are relaxed and your feet are relaxed. And then just lie here for a couple more minutes and just breathe. Just taking a couple more breaths here. And then just noticing if your body feels like it has been allowed to settle a little bit. And notice how that feels for you. And then just take one more breath here. Take your feet off your chair or your blocks. And just have your blocks, your foam blocks, and your strap near you. Lay back down on the ground. You're going to put your blocks in between your knees. Upper body is relaxed, and so the hands are out to the side. And now we're just going to squeeze our knees together against these pillows, and so it's a squeeze and release. You're going to do that 30 times, squeezing and releasing. So as you're doing this squeezing and releasing, you're trying not to let your stomach muscles work. You're trying not to let your bum work. You're just trying to work the insides of the legs and feeling them squeezing and releasing. This sequence that we're doing, we're going to do this sequence 3 times. So there's, we're doing these knee pillow squeezes, and then we're going to do some glute contractions, and then we're going to relax in a position called frog. So this sequence is can sometimes be good for sciatica. So if it works for you, then it just speaks to the hips being not in alignment. So once you've finished your 30, the blocks come down, and now we're going to squeeze those bum cheeks together. So squeezing and releasing, squeezing and releasing. You're going to do 30 of these squeezing and releasing on these bum cheeks. So again, we just want the bum working on this, and you want to notice as you're doing this, does it feel like the bum cheeks fire at the same time? And does it feel like they fire with equal strength? And you're trying not to use your stomach, and now you're trying not to use your legs. So it's just those bum cheeks firing and releasing. So 30 of them. And again, just noticing how this feels for you. Once you've finished your 30 here, we're coming into a position called frog, or in yoga it's referred to often as butterfly pose or reclined bound angle. So soles of feet come together, the knees flop out to the side, and we're just laying here, and we're going to lay here for about a minute. And just noticing how this feels. So for some of us, if hips are a real issue, hips might not like this, and so you want to decide, maybe you try this for a little while and see if it helps it. So sometimes for me, I find that my hips are not particularly happy in this position, but the more I stay in this position, the more they release. And so this is something that you have to figure out what's good for you in your own body. So just lying here and breathing. Sometimes too, if things are really tight, then the knees maybe bounce a little bit. And so if you feel like this is really not a great position for you, you could also take your blocks here and sort of put them underneath the bum a little bit, just to provide a little bit of support, right? You just want to find a place that you can relax and let everything settle. This is a good position. It helps to neutralize the pelvis into a neutral position. So it's really good for us. Most people like this, but not everybody does. And if this really isn't for you, then you could just bend your knees. Take one more breath here. And then come out of that. We're going to go back into the knee pillow squeezes. So we're here, and we're squeezing and releasing it. We're doing for 30 times. So squeezing, releasing for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No stomach. 6, 7, 8. No bump. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. These blocks go down, and now it's the glute contractions, squeezing and releasing for 1, 2, 3. No stomach. 4, 5. No legs. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Now foot soles together, knees drop out to the side, coming back into this frog position. We'll hold this for a minute. So I've had clients that this sequence of the knee pillow squeezes, the glute contractions, and this frog, they have gotten relief from sciatica issues like almost immediately. And so, you know, I'm not guaranteeing that that's going to help you, but you never know. I do find I do have some disparity in my hips, and so I do find, although not specifically to sciatica, it does seem to help sometimes when I feel like my hips are not in good alignment. Just breathing, noticing how this frog feels for you. Got about 30 more seconds in this. Taking one more breath here, bringing those legs up, doing the last round of the knee pillow squeezes, blocks in between the knees, making sure the feet have a little bit of space between them and they feel like they're straight, so they're feeling like a little bit pigeon-toed. I'm going to squeeze those knees together, squeeze for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Blocks go down. And now it's the gluteal contraction, so squeezing those bum cheeks together for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Foot soles together, knees drop out to the side, coming back into frog. Staying here for another minute. So because this is another position that helps bring our body sort of back into alignment and the pelvis back to a neutral position, you know, this might be a great thing to do while you're watching TV. We're holding for about 20 more seconds. take one more breath here. Bring those legs back up. So grab your strap, place that around your knees here so that your knees are about in line with your hips when you're doing this. And then you're just not going to really do anything with your legs at this point. You're going to take your hands, you're going to put them into that golf grip. So the pads of the fingers go to the knuckles. And then you're bringing them up to the temples, and we're bringing those elbows in and out. So we're doing that for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we're going to press into the strap. You're going to try not to use your stomach or your bum. You're just going to press into the outsides of the legs. We're going to press for 20. So pressing and releasing for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So don't press, just the legs are relaxed, but the strap can stay there. Take your hands, clasp them, and now we're taking arms over the head. I'm going to do that for 10 times. You're going to try to keep your elbows perfectly straight on this. You're trying not to let those bottom ribs pop up. They're going to have a tendency for maybe the back to arch on this, but don't let it. Ribs try to stay anchored to the floor, and you're just going back and forth. We're doing 10 of these. Last one. Good, now I'm going to take those hands into that golf grip, back up to the temples for the elbow curls. We're doing 10 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Take your legs, you're going to push against your strap for 20 times for 1, 2, 3, 4, no stomach, 5, 6, no bum, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good. Grab those hands. Perhaps you change the position of your hands, move it one finger down. Take them overhead for 10 pullovers. Trying to keep the elbows straight. Trying to keep the ribs from popping up. 5 more. Make sure you're breathing. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Go back to that golf grip. Hands to the temples or knuckles to the temples, bringing it in the last time for the elbow curls for 1, 2. Try not to let the wrists to bend. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Take that and push against the strap for 20 times for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Last time for the pull-ups, hands clasped together, going overhead, elbows try to stay straight for 1, 2, not letting those ribs pop up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good, the strap can come off.
We're going to come into a position called modified floor block. And so this can be, it can feel like somewhat of a strange position sometimes for us. So, you know, we're gonna try to hold it for about 4 minutes, so see how you feel on this. Try to let things settle. So you're coming onto your stomach. Your toes are pigeon-toed, and your arms are out at 90 degrees so that your elbows are bent at 90.
And then forehead is going to come down.
And so the option is on here, you're going to want to let the legs relax on this and the pelvis just relax. But the elbows can come up even higher. And so, you know, if you've got a higher block, you can take it up here,
Relaxing down here.
or even up to this position here.
And relax down.
I'm going to do it at this middle position. So I'm here. If it feels like your nose is
Pushing into the ground too much.
then tuck your chin under a little bit. That should take some pressure off the nose. Don't forget your feet are pigeon-toed, so toes are together, heels drop out to the side. You're trying to let your bum relax, you're trying to let your legs relax. This can be a nice stretch into the shoulders. But again, it can be quite awkward. So continue to hold this position. I'll talk a little bit about what this position is doing. So this is one of the positions that can sometimes really help with low back pain. Even herniated disc it might be good for. And so I use this quite a bit when my back sort of goes out and I've got low back pain. And I have to say that initially when I tried this position and I saw this was for low back pain, it felt very counterintuitive to be in this position for me. I thought, this is not going to be good. When I do this, I usually hold it for about 6 minutes, and 6 minutes initially can feel like eternity. So 4 minutes might also feel quite long. But it was surprising at the relief that I got. And so the series of exercise for low back, this is taken from Peter Gosky's book, Pain Free. And this is one of the exercises that is recommended for that. So yeah, so you just might want to try this and see how it feels for you. And you're just trying to let everything settle. And so what this position tries to do, it tries to get our pelvis to reposition. And for many of us, pelvis, when our hips are sort of out and not even, it can cause us lots of problems, low back issues being one of them. So you're about halfway done here. Got about, well, even more than that, about 1.5 minutes left in this. I also want to let you know that initially when I first started doing this, my knees weren't very happy in this as well, and I'd often have to adjust my feet. But over time, now when I do this position, I have no problem staying in it for 6 minutes. And yeah, and I do this position if I even feel like my back is thinking about not behaving and going out. I can now sort of help. I feel like I can help prevent my back going out now by recognizing what it feels like before it happens and then doing this position. You have about 50 more seconds here. Breathing, so you're breathing, right? You want your breathing to be feeling a little bit more like you're breathing out of your back, I guess. So not your breath up in the upper chest, make it in the lower abdomen so that, and because you're against the floor, it's going to feel like you're pushing a little bit into your back. Holding here for about 30 more seconds. Take one more breath here. Slowly come out of this. And then make your way up onto hands and knees. So hands and knees, making sure knees are stacked underneath your hips, hands are underneath your shoulders. You're going to take your hands now and you're going to walk them one hand length forward. So you can see now my shoulders are back behind my hands. So now I want to take my shoulders and bring them up towards my hands. I'm going to let my shoulder blades collapse together. I've got a big arch happening in the low back, so my pelvis tilts forward, and then I drop my head. So this is another one of the positions that can sometimes be helpful for low back pain. Again, when I first started doing this, to me it did not feel like it was going to help. It felt to me like it was going to be bad for it, but it did provide me relief. So again, this is another thing that I do if I feel like my back is going out. We're hanging here for about a minute. If the low back hurts in this position, then you want to take your bum, you want to push it back a little bit until it doesn't hurt. But you really want to letting that big arch happening in the low back and let everything relax. Taking one more breath here, and then come out of that, and it might feel good just to push back a little bit, coming into a child's pose, right? So you can stack your fists, you can put your chin on your hands, but just finding a place where you can maybe just feels a little bit like you're doing the opposite now. Take one more breath and then come back up here. We're going to work a little bit on hands and wrists today. So if you're in this position here, so I'm here, if I'm on all fours, I've got quite a bit of weight in my wrists, and if that doesn't feel good for you in these exercises, then you can sit back a little bit on your bum, put your wrists here, and then you're going to have less weight. So what we're going to do a little bit of wrist strengthening. So you're going to start by lifting up the heels of your hands, just up and down. And just notice how that feels. So our wrists, especially if we're doing yard work, you know, there's pulling, there's raking, there's all those things. So having strong wrists could be helpful. And now change the position. So now go on to sort of like this gorilla grip. Again, right, if this feels too much on your wrist, then you're just going to be here, and you can really control on how much weight you're putting on your wrists. And then you just want to put this in all sorts of different positions. And then now take it, so the outsides of the hands, do like little karate chops. Again, right, if it feels too much, you've got back here, so here, and then take it and do the insides of your hands, and notice how that feels. And then do backs of the hands. So this one, right, so just be careful, but to have some weight on the backs of the hands, and you're only putting weight on that feels good for you, and then just change the directions on this, and notice how that feels. Good, and then come back to all fours. So we are going to do, these are rhomboid push-ups, and we did them a little bit in the golf video with Dal. But so the elbows stay straight on this. You're going to collapse your shoulder blades together, and then you're going to bring shoulder blades apart. So we're working on the muscles that run in between the spine and the shoulder blade. This can be helpful when we've got rounded shoulders, or to help prevent rounded shoulders. And so it's not cat-cow. You can see my low back isn't moving. It's just my chest is going towards the floor. My chest is going away from the floor. When my chest drops towards the floor, my shoulder blades come together. When my chest pushes away from the floor, my shoulder blades go apart. It is a small movement. And don't worry if you can't
feel this or can't do this. I find this to be one of the hardest things to teach, for people to understand this. Do one more. And then come back onto all fours. I'm going to turn to face you. So we're on all fours again. Hands are flat on the floor and the elbows are straight. So we're going to do some rotations. And so without bending the elbows, you're going to take those elbow pits here and you're going to face them forward. And then you're going to face them towards each other and face them forward. So this is internal, external rotation in the shoulder joint. And so elbows are moving in and out, but hands are not moving and the elbows aren't bending. Do one more. And then come back to center. You're staying in that all four position. You're going to take your left leg, take it out behind you. Give a little bit of a stretch. So a little bit of a calf stretch here. And then take that left leg and walk it over towards the right. And then you're going to look over that right shoulder. So this is a bit of a side stretch happening. You should feel a stretch down the left side. If you've had a hip replacement and you know you're not supposed to cross midline, then you wouldn't cross midline. You would just take your head and look over that left shoulder. So side stretch here. Bring everything back to center and then take your right foot, take it out behind you. Start with a little bit of a calf stretch. So just pushing into that heel, feeling a nice stretch happening through the back of the leg. And then walking that left leg over to the right, looking over that right shoulder. So we've got a stretch going down the right side now. Bring everything back to center. So just here, do those rhomboid push-ups again, where chest drops to the floor, shoulder blades or chest pushes up towards the ceiling. So just back and forth a little bit. Do one more. And then leaving everything where it is, those elbow pit rotations. So the elbow pits face forward, elbow pits face towards each other. So moving the arms in that internal, external rotation. Bring the elbows back to neutral position. Step back out with the right foot. Push into the heel of the right foot. Walk the right foot over towards the left, looking over the left shoulder. Back to that side stretch. Bringing everything back to center, and then taking the left foot, pushing into the heel, calf stretch. And then walking that foot over towards the right, looking over the right shoulder. Bringing everything back to center and pushing back into child's pose, just to even out your body a little bit. Take one more breath here. And then as you're ready, come up to standing. Good, let's take this over to the wall here. Coming into air bench. So we're going to walk our feet out. We're coming down into this sitting position. So we want low back to be pressed into the wall, so we don't want an arch happening, so that low back presses into the wall. And then you're coming down to what is, a comfortable, uncomfortable position for you. So your feet want to be feeling like they're straight, so it's going to feel like they're maybe a little bit pigeon-toed, and then knees, feet, hip bones, all trying to be in alignment, so you don't want those knees to come together or come apart. And then if this is really hard for you, then it might feel good to take a couple of those blocks and place them in between your knees. That might feel better. Oh, making sure your mat doesn't slip. and you're breathing. So you're about halfway done on this. We try to stay in this position for about 2 minutes. Making sure you're breathing. Pressing into the heels on this more than into the toes helps to activate the fronts of the legs. So again, this is another great position. We're using the wall to help us feel straight. It can be a position that helps to level out the hips. And so especially after we've done that modified floor block and that static extension where we're on hands and knees and just let us have that big sway back, then this is a really good way to help, I guess, set that position. Again, we're trying to get the pelvis back into neutral position or into a more straighter position that sometimes can help with back pain. You have about 15 more seconds here. Take one more breath here. Push into the wall, come up, and then turn. And that same thing that we did on the on all fours, we're going to do here now. So the rhomboid push-ups. So you're going to squeeze those shoulder blades together. Shoulder blades come apart. Elbows stay straight. So for some people, doing this in different positions, they are able to sort of feel a little bit more what this is supposed to feel like. So again, elbow or shoulder blades squeeze together, shoulder blades come apart. And as we do that, as the shoulder blades squeeze together, the chest goes towards the wall and then the chest goes away from the wall. But it's just that small movement happening in the shoulder blade area. Doing one more. And then we're going to do those elbow pit rotations again. So elbows stay straight, armpits rotate up towards the ceiling, and they rotate towards each other. So again, our hands don't move, elbows don't bend. We're just rotating the arm in the shoulder socket. Doing one more here. And then your chair, we're going to do a quad stretch. So my toe, top of the foot is on my chair. My legs are parallel. So once I'm up here, I'm going to tuck my tail under. So my tail sort of tucks under a bit. Once I do that, I get a stretch in the front of the leg. And for some people, they don't feel a big stretch in that. And so maybe then you've got to grab your foot here to get a stretch. But just finding a place where you've got a nice stretch happening in the fronts of the legs. So we want our stretches in our body to be comfortable and happy. We don't want those muscles screaming as we're stretching them. We want to take them to the stretch, not to the extreme stretch. So just at a nice stretch. Take one more breath here, and then let's switch over to the other foot. Again, making sure that my thighs are parallel. Once my foot is up there, just the toe is on there. I tuck that pelvis under. Once I do that, I should feel a stretch happening in the front of that leg. And you're breathing. Again, if that doesn't feel like it's enough for you, then you can grab that foot into a little bit more of a stretch. Take one more breath here. Come out of that. Shake out your legs a little bit. And let's do a little bit of balancing. So let's go one foot in front of the other. And you're coming down into a little bit of a lunge. So we're here. That back heel can be lifted. If balance isn't with you, you've got a wall. That's what you need. And we're just going to do little tiny ups and downs. So little split squats. Coming down, right, however low you go. And maybe it's just little. And that's a good place to start. Do one more. And then bring arms up and little tiny tilts. So this might change your balance. And that's fine. Do one more each way. and then switch feet. Take your other foot back. The back heel is lifted. Whoa. Coming back in to that little bit of a lunge, and then just dropping up and down. So the upper body tries to be straight. Try not to come forward on this. You're sinking straight down, straight up. Making sure you're breathing. Let's do one more. Then to come arms up to the side, a little bit of tilts. So just changing. This position can change our balance. So balance will be different on different days and different on different sides. A whole lot different on this side today. One more each way. Good. Come back up to standing. And then just come, we're going to go into a bit of a forward bend, but maybe a little bit different than you've done before. So hands go on sort of low back, upper bum, I guess, here. So we're here, elbows squeezed together. And then you're hinging forward at the hips here. But you want to make sure that the arch stays in the low back. So we're not rounding, and we're coming forward here. As we do that, the weight goes a little bit more towards our toes. But we've got an arch happening in that low back. So you should feel a stretch down the backs of the legs. There is no destination on how far you have to go. So this is not about taking your head to your thighs, if that's a thing. And you just want to breathe. Make sure those shoulders or the elbows are squeezing together a little bit on this. Take one more breath, push into your heels, come all the way up, and then just shake that up. Come back down to your knees again, and you're going to grab your two blocks. And you're going to put them in between your ankles, and you're going to come down onto your stomach. You're going to lift up your feet a little bit so that you can grab, you're squeezing the blocks with your ankles, and you're going to bring this up so that your feet are about 90 degrees. So your hands, hand over hand, forehead can be on your hands, and then you're just going to squeeze your ankles together. So we're squeezing and releasing the ankles on this. This is working backside of the body. So lots going on in this. If you're finding this hard, that's probably quite normal. And if you're feeling it's way too hard, then you can bring your knees out a little bit to help with that squeeze. Do one more. Bring those down. And then from here, take your left ankle or left foot and bring it towards your bum. So we're back into a quad stretch here. So if this is as far as you go, then this is where you go. You're still getting a nice stretch in the front of that leg. If you could reach behind and grab your ankle, then you do that. But again, taking this into a nice stretch, not into an extreme stretch. Releasing that left foot if you grabbed it, bring it down to the ground, and then switching over, bringing that right heel towards your bum. That might be where your stretch is, or if you can reach it, you're grabbing your foot or your ankle to increase the stretch a little bit. Make sure you're breathing. Bring that foot all the way down. Go back into those prone ankle squeezes. So you're going to lift up your feet. You're going to grab a hold of your blocks. You're going to bring it up. And then you're going to squeeze and release. So as you're squeezing and releasing, so pushing the ankles into the blocks, you feel bum working on this. And make sure you're breathing. And if, we're probably doing
about 60 of these, and if it feels like it's too much, then do less. Do one more. Bring your feet down to the ground. You can leave the blocks where they're at. Toes are on the ground. Forehead is on the ground, and hands are back behind you, palms face down on this. All we're going to do here is we're going to lift up our arms and bring them back down. So these are eyes. We are working muscles in the back here. We're just lifting. As you lift, feel the muscles of the upper back working on this. Let's do 2 more. Bring those hands back. Forehead can go back onto your hands. You're going to lift up those blocks again. Last time for those squeezes and release. Right? Remember, if it feels too much, bringing those knees a little bit wider can sometimes help with this. And you want to notice when you're doing this, if there's lots of wobbling happening in your foot, it speaks to the legs not evenly pressing against those blocks. So if they're not pressing at the same time or with equal strength, then there's going to be lots of wobbling happening. Do 2 more. Bring those feet back down to the ground. Toes are flat on the ground, and now the hands are coming out to a T position. Forehead is on the ground, arms are at a T, thumbs are pointing up, and now we're lifting up here. So we're working upper back on this. These are T's. Feel upper back muscles working. Do 3 more. 2 more. Last one. And then hand over hand, just bend your knees, wiper them back and forth to release anything that might have gone on in low back. Take one more breath here. Bring the feet down, and then you're going to come back to the wall here. And you need your blocks. You're gonna bring your bum fairly close to the wall, like it's about 4 or 5 inches away from the wall. But if your bum is lifted up off the ground, then you need to come further away from the wall. You're going to take your blocks, you're going to place them in between your knees here. You're lightly squeezing those knees together. And we're just hanging out here. We're going to hang out here for about 3 minutes. So it feels perhaps like we're not doing much. Upper body is relaxed, hands are out to the side, palms facing up. So just lightly squeezing those blocks together so they don't fall out. We're looking at here bringing some working the hip stabilizers on this. And so although it looks like I'm not doing anything, after 3 minutes, after 5 minutes, you should feel work going on in your hips and perhaps then even getting tired. Or just hanging out here. So again, many of the things that we do in this class, for someone just watching us, would look like it's nothing. But we're trying to stabilize and strengthen a lot of the smaller muscles around the hips that we often don't use because we sit so much. And so then the stronger that we can get those muscles around the hips, then perhaps better alignment will come to the hips. For sure, our balance will be better. So you're about halfway done on this, about 1.5 minutes here. So I can really feel my hips working on this. About 45 seconds left. So we're also in this position, again, we're using the floor to help with the upper body, trying to bring that into alignment. And so we've got the back muscles hopefully feeling a little bit lengthened here while the lower body's working. Take one more breath here. And then stay where you're at, but take away the blocks and just put them off to the side. We're going to do some abdominal contractions. So hands go behind your head, just slightly behind your head. Elbows stay out to the side, and we're just lifting up our head and shoulders about an inch and then down. So I don't want elbows to come forward and you wrenching on your neck. You take your eyes and you're sort of looking straight back as you're lifting up. As you lift up, you should feel the stomach muscles contracting on this, ups and downs. So I'm trying to look behind me so that I'm not doing this, crunching forward, it's just up. So we are working those abdominal muscles on this. In a traditional sit-up, we often are working those hip flexors. In this position, we've taken out the work on the hip flexors, and we're just trying to get those stomach muscles to engage as we lift. So this probably isn't going to get you a six-pack. So I'm sorry about that. But we are working to get abdominal muscles that just function as they're supposed to. Let's just do a couple more here. And then just bring these to chest. Might feel good to rock back and forth just a little bit. And then just come back so that you're on your back. We'll do some pelvic tilts. So we're going to arch that low back and we're going to flatten that low back. So as we arch the low back, it feels a little bit like the feet are pulling towards us. And as we flatten that low back to the floor, the feet are pushing away from it. It's just a small movement in the lumbar spine, just going back and forth. So just making sure that we try to keep the mobility happening in our hips and low back there. Do one more. End with the low back pressed flat to the floor. And then just making sure that your right foot is in line with your right knee, which is in line with your left foot, or sorry, your right hip. And then you're taking that left ankle and placing it onto that right knee. Arms are down to the side, palms facing down, and we're going to twist over towards the right. As you twist towards the right, that left knee wants to push gently away from you. And then you can decide whether maybe it feels good to look away from that twist or whether it feels better just to be straight ahead. If this feels like it's too much, then you can certainly use your blocks so that you're not coming down as high, right? Then it'd be coming down to here. So again, you're making sure that this stretch feels like a nice stretch, but because we're pushing that knee away from you, there's also a little bit of strength happening here.
Taking one more breath here, and then on the next inhale, you're going to bring everything back up to center. That left foot goes down onto the ground, and then you're taking that right ankle, placing it on top of the left knee, and then dropping that right foot down towards the left. Again, that right knee gently pushes away from you, and you have the option to turn your head away from that twist. Making sure you're breathing. Taking one more breath here. Head comes back up to center. Legs come back up to center. Right foot sole goes onto the ground. And then again, do just a few of those pelvic tilts. So arching the low back, flattening the low back, arching and flattening. Do one more arch. And then press that low back down into the floor. Bring it back to neutral. Might feel good. Just bring knees into chest. Rock a little bit back and forth. Grab your chair or your ottoman. We're going to come back into that static back position. You're going to grab your pillows or your foam blocks. So we're back into that static back position. So I want my hips to be bent at 90, my knees to be bent at 90, and everything is nice and straight. I'm going to put my head on these blocks. I'm going to let my chin tuck down. And if this feels like too much of a stretch, then maybe you're only doing one. So we are looking for a stretch in the back of those muscles of the neck. And just hanging out here. Bring a nice stretch. So these muscles are often in this lengthened position as we look at our phones or our tablets, but they always have a lot of strain on them. So we're trying to get a little bit of stretch happening through those muscles. Taking one more breath here. Removing the blocks from your head, coming back down just into that static back position for the last few minutes of class, and just trying to let everything relax. So if it feels like lying on your back with your head flat on the floor is not comfortable for you, then feel free to put the blocks back underneath your head, or maybe even a towel rolled up underneath your neck. If this doesn't feel comfortable for low back, and your low back automatically goes flat to the floor when you lie like this, then perhaps it's going to feel better to have a little bit of a towel, a rolled up towel underneath that lumbar spine, or that arch of the low back there, to give yourself some support. So if you have really rounded shoulders and sort of not very much arch in the low back, then doing this position with rolls, towels underneath your arch of your back and the arch of your neck can really help bring a lot of relief. So again, you're just trying to let everything relax, so making sure that your feet and legs are relaxed and they're just settled against that block or the chair. Making sure that your stomach is relaxed, and you're just allowing the breath to feel like it's in that stomach area as opposed to the upper chest. So as you're breathing in and out, the stomach is softly rising and falling. Checking in with your shoulders, making sure they feel relaxed and they're not creeping up towards your ears. Your neck feels long. Letting go of all the tension in your jaw letting go of all the muscles on your face. So all the muscles around your eyes feel relaxed. Your cheeks are relaxed. Your lips are relaxed. Letting that space between the eyebrows be relaxed. Letting the forehead be relaxed. So as you lie there, just envision your face feeling smooth. All the worry lines are gone. And focus on your breathing. Really allowing the breath to move from the lower part, the stomach area, that lower abdominal area. And maybe you even feel the back sort of pressing into the floor as you breathe. Taking one more breath here. Noticing how your body feels, noticing if it feels like it's maybe a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit more settled. As you're ready, taking your legs off your block. And if you're not ready, then feel free to stay here for as long as you'd like. As you're ready, maybe coming up to a seated position.
Bringing your hands to heart center. Pausing for a moment to thank yourself for giving yourself the time to do this practice today. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Namaste.